Yashwant Deshmukh, welcome to the show. As you know, especially on social media, exit polls and polls generally are very much flavor of the season, or perhaps
Oh,
not flavor of the season. So let's start with the obvious question. The Election Commission has banned polls during an election campaign. That ban does not extend, however, to exit polls. You can do exit polls once the polling booths have closed, and which is what happens. There is now a demand saying that the ban should be extended to exit polls. So, can you explain why you believe exit polls should not be banned?
well, first of all, there is no such ban anywhere in the world in any democratic system. You know,
Okay.
there is no ban even in the US as such, but the self-implied ban by the media is that they start releasing the Eastern Coast exit polls only when the last polls are done in the Pacific time.
Right.
So there is no ban on the opinion polls. In UK, actually the last opinion poll is published on the day of the polling.
Yeah.
Forget about everything else. So here also, the self-imposed something which we have actually implemented even before election commission said anything was 48 hours before the polling starts. That's self-regulated, by the way. There is nothing that is written over there in that way, and it started way before this new law came into
Right.
existence. And even the multi-phase polling thing, we stopped way back, declaring the phase-wise exit poll, as they call it. We did not even do that in 2004, for that matter. The law came into practice only when, at one point of time, during the day of the polling, NDTV and Dr. Roy went ahead with a live exit poll of kind of thing on the screen.
Yeah.
And that is when the election commission said this is wrong, and a lot of halla happened, and there was a law in place after that, which said that the conducting and publication. So basically, the legal lacuna is that thou shall not publish the exit poll, because election commission clearly gives in writing that when is the last phase of poll is getting over, and 6:30 on that day. And sometimes election commission revises that, because sometimes the last day of polling, the people in the line are quite significantly bigger number, so they sometimes revise it, that okay, start after half an hour or 1 hour later or something like that. So there is no, first of all, there is no such ban anywhere in the democratic world. So that is why we should not have any ban. I mean, that's the
So,
first thing.
correct me if I'm wrong, but we are unusual compared to many Western countries in not allowing opinion polls to be released during a campaign. For instance, if you're following the UK campaign, you will know that almost daily opinion polls are being printed. After every debate, people say who won, who lost. People are now saying reform has overtaken the Tories in the polls. For some reason, the Election Commission has said that's not okay in India because these polls have a bad effect. The bad effect being defined presumably as influencing the electorate. Is
Right,
that fair?
right. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. That's fair. That's fair, and in fact, I agree to some extent with that, because the media scene in India, and you are a journalist. I have been a journalist. I mean, I consider
Yeah.
myself as a journalist
You
personally.
are a judge.
Yeah. So all said and done, unfortunately, in the last 30 years, what I have realized, and I even though I defend media and opinion polling and everything, I feel our side of the table is not educated enough in terms of how to carry and data and how to use the data. When I say our side of the table, that is the media, and that
Okay.
is why sometimes I feel that when media was not self-regulating, the pollsters were not self-regulating. If there was a law, I actually welcomed it. Even though the first time they tried to choke exit poll election, the case went right up to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that nothing doing. This was 98, 99, by the way back.
I remember. No, I remember the case. Yeah.
Remember that, right? So Enram actually took it up to the Supreme Court, the publisher and editor of Hindu, and Supreme Court squashed it that it's not. It's a free society. Freedom of speech is there. You cannot stop it. But having said that, how it is different in India is for a simple reason that our media, particularly, the people who are taking the calls in media are not educated enough in terms of data literacy on how to go about it. And this is why when Press Council of India formed the guidelines for the media week, I have been saying this. In fact, I went ahead and told my clients, these are the Press Council guidelines, and we will not do the polls if you will not do it the way they are saying. So, luckily for me, all my media clients actually went ahead and implemented it. So, all my polls on ABP, for example, they start with a big screen, all the details that Press Council of India is asking, we give that. India Today publishes full one page of methodology note. But to my horror, nobody else does.
Yeah.
Nobody else does in media. So what does Press Council of India ask you to do? That first of all, if you publish an opinion poll or any survey of that kind, you shall give the sample size, the standard margin of error, who has commissioned the poll, the most important thing, who has spent money on that. Number four, which is the agency? What is the track record of the agency? How many times they have got it right, largely wrong? There are some standardization to be in place. But I don't find 99% of the media in India following even one of that guideline. All they are too over focused is seat kitni milni, how many seats who is winning, and that's why the entire punditry discussion and everything goes up or down. Nobody discusses the real data, the good data, the data which explains how it is going, where it is going. Nobody discusses that.
Okay, I don't have a problem with much of what you're saying, but the argument is if the government of India has banned opinion polls, saying that there could be effects on the election process, is it not valid to say that we should ban exit polls also, not necessarily because the election process, because polls are closed by then, but because of fears of what will happen in the stock market? Let's look at the charges made by the Congress, made by Rahul Gandhi, and made by Praveen Chakravarti in an article and in a video. His claim is, and I haven't substantiated, but I imagine he's got his figures right, is that the day before the exit polls were being released, there was huge activity on unprecedented level in the stock market. The exit polls were released, the market shot up. These guys made a lot of money, and presumably they disposed the shares before the actual results came out. Now, he's saying for them to have done that, they must have had access to opinion polls and the exit polls to know that the market would shoot up when these polls are released. Therefore, he's saying, and he's not necessarily blaming the pollsters because the leaks could have come from media from anywhere. Therefore, he's saying it's probably a good idea not to allow exit polls also, because in our system, there are enormous opportunities for manipulation. Is that fair?
I don't know if that helps if the market stops speculating on anything. Market works in the way that it works. It speculates. That's the larger thing that happens. There are unsubstantiated report on some political development and market reacts on that.
Yeah.
And it's a global phenomenon. So I don't know if it is helping in that way. Does that help when pollsters, one me by the way, got it wrong about Trump in US? Did that speculation or did that go anything wrong with the US markets at that point of time? Was there any collusion? The collusion thing, actually, I have a different take on that.
Yep.
Huge majority of the exit polls, if you look into the names, there are dozen odd exit polls, you look into the names, you will realize barring 3 or 4, you have never even heard the names of the guys who have done it. All right. And that is where I'm uncomfortable. Exit poll is not something which should be coming, once in a 5-year out of the blue moon and they are influencing. Suppose, like the trackers we do, the way regularly, how the West does it, by the way, all media, no matter what it is, every week there is a poll, every week, and the polls go in a direction where there are confluence and there are things which are kind of contradicting each other, but they are discussed, very heatedly discussed, dissection is happened, it's open, transparent, to an extent that in US, the Democrat pollster openly write D and Republican pollster openly write R in front of their polling agency, So that kind of transparency is needed. Now, market, in the absence of exit poll, will that not yield to speculation? I am not a market person. I have never bought a single share all my life. I'm not a stock guy. So I cannot say, but the way it operates, I generally believe it's mostly on speculation. I mean, that's what my sense of that is. So if that is going to
Right, because that's my sense also, that if you hear a rumor saying the finance minister may be considering something, the market reacts. So the market
exactly.
reacts to every little sneeze. But this is a bit more than that. The level of trading the day before the exit polls came out was virtually unprecedented. It's never happened before. Why would the market on that one day shoot up so much? He
No
says.
idea.
Yes, people have some idea. I mean,
We-
I
I am
concede it's not the fault of the pollsters. It's not
getting your
anything he
point.
did.
I'm
But
totally getting
there
your
is
point.
something to be concerned about. No?
It is, for me, it is big time concerning in that way if anybody raises a single point at the polling thing. But the problem is that I am not a industry's spokesperson. So I can only talk about me, my data, my transparency, the way I am doing it day in and day out, and publishing and reporting it in the media. My clients are only media. So, and to say it on record, we actually, I would mention two people here, uh, and to give credit to them. My two major media clients, India Today, Arun Puri, and ABP, the circus, or for that matter, the CEO of ABP. Yeah.
Hmm.
For all these years, during even the exit poll, none, not even a single time they have called me and asked me what is the trend. When I give the mood of the nation poll, not even once they ask me beforehand what is. When I submit the report, then they call their editorial calls, how to explain this, how to explain that. But uh, I mean, I'm just telling you the way we
I
work in
understand.
that. All right. I don't know about others. I'm not going into that because if the speculation will happen at any other end, only when the data is there, selective leak is there, or something like that, and something goes on and off. General trend discussion as a journalist, because I also end up learning more with the editors and the reporters on the ground of all my client networks. The way I have to also analyze and consume my own data.
Okay.
Beyond that, honestly speaking, if it helps banning the exit poll, please go and do it.
You really
Honestly,
mean that? You really
yeah,
mean that?
I mean that. I mean that
And of
in with
course,
full
you can't speak for the
responsibility.
industry, but are you
With
not
full
interested by these
responsibility,
reports?
because in that case, what will happen will then exit
Yeah.
poll data will be used for the real purpose, what it should be used for. That is understanding the mandate. So
Okay.
if you will say that there is a law, you should not release the exit poll data before the final results come out, I will be more than happy. Because then my job is easy. I will collect the data, weigh and mirror the data to the final result, and do the cross tabulation to explain what exactly is this mandate about. What were the issues? Why people voted the way they voted? Which class, education, income, occupation, caste, and religious groups, how they have felt about it and how they have gone ahead and voted. If this is the reason they feel it should be banned, okay, I have no issues. I will be more than happy, rather than taking a blame for something which is going wrong.
Okay, three things you said which strike me as interesting. The first is obviously you can't speak as spokesman for the industry, you can only speak for yourself. The second is you don't really understand the stock market. But yes, if there are concerns, if people did do all of this and they want to take action, and this action amounts to banning exit polls, at some level you're actually quite happy because it makes your job easier. Is that fair?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. I mean, we come to think of it. This is a thankless job. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a thankless, bloody thankless job, because so many times when we get it right, nobody remembers, nobody comes and pat, well, job well done. In fact, I always make this a crack a joke as well, but by the way, it's not a joke, it's a reality here. In last 28 years, out of 30 years of my career, when I started polling kind of thing, not a single, and I got largely correct, more than 90% of my polling have been correct in spotting the trend. Not a single time the guy who has won an election has called up and said, "Thank you, sir. Your poll and data was really critical and important for us." But every time the whomsoever has lost, the bugger has blamed us that we lost because of you. All right. So it's a thankless job. I'm saying that. So I am under no this thing. But only one thing, Veer. I
Yeah.
have been crying out hoarse in that way that this minutes of seat share this projections, this uh, kind of a weird kind of mania around that, which is not part of the polling exercise, that has to be stopped. So if there is a law which says exit polls should stick to the vote share projection and they shall not discuss the cheat share, I will be the first person to support it. I am so fed up with that. I'm so fed up with that. Because I start bloody every program where, if you look out into all my recordings, I start with this thing. The science of survey stops at the vote share projection. This is what the globally it is done it. Beyond that, it is just a mathematical extrapolation. And the vote and the seat extrapolation in our democracy is never linear. With the same vote share, you can have a 10 different things. Take an example recently in Odisha, when our exit poll said that BJP is almost 7-8 points ahead of the BJD and they are likely to win 19 seats. Bang on, they won 19 seats. But our exit poll also said BJD is polling more votes than BJP in assembly elections, which would have linearly
Was that right? And was that right?
Yeah, BJD got more votes than the BJP, but BJP formed the government, right? So party with polling lesser vote has got more seats in Odisha.
No, so listen, I take your point. I take your larger point that when you get it right, nobody says anything, but when you get it wrong, everybody's up in arms. But that's true of everything. If 28 planes land safely today, nobody's going to congratulate them. They're going to write about the one plane that crashed. That is amazing. But that brings us to the big one. People say, how could everybody get the direction of the results and the trends so wrong? If you remember, Congress spokespeople turned up on exit poll programs. I was on one and said, all of you have got your figures from a single source. That's why you're showing these results. And eventually, when the results didn't get the trend completely right, many people said this was a valid criticism. How do you guys, at least you, how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I feel really sad and bad about it, honestly speaking, because we more than 200 people in my office have worked there, gut out for the last so many years. And it's not a one-day thing. We do it a daily tracker, interviewing more than 400,000 people, in-depth interviews, and getting almost 26 out of 28 correct and getting it wrong with 2 states, and which eventually brings out your overall tally down. You feel like that there were almost like 28 examination. You got 100% in 26 and you got it wrong in rest of the 2, and there is a fail written in your report card. And to make it worse, I got my vote share right even in Rajasthan, for that matter, even in UP, where the seat share went wrong. So, as far as I am concerned, I believe that if I would have had the luxury of taking the call like CSDS, that we shall not be doing the seat share. If I had the luxury, I would have done that. I don't have that luxury because I am a for-profit company. They happen to be a non-for-profit academic run on the grants. So they can very well say, we don't care about the media clients and we do what we do.
Even CSDS, Sanjay, when asked on television about the results, said, I can't predict an exact number which you would approve of, but the BJP will get between 250 to 300. So he got the trail wrong again, the trend wrong.
Yeah. And vote share is where, in fact, the last program where me, Sanjay Bhai, we were together with Rajdeep and Rahul. In fact, I said, for my gold standard is the, vote share. And Sanjay Bhai said in his data, BJP was getting 41%. Actually, I said, no, Sanjay Bhai, it is not happening. BJP is not crossing 38% votes in my data, and not because BJP is polling less. And I could immediately understand what is going wrong. I said that, you have taken a, fixed turnout scenario for all the states. So if you take a fixed turnout scenario like 65%, 67% for all turnout state, then you are comparing UP at the same turnout level with the Kerala at the same turnout level, which was not the case. So what happened was that why I got the vote share right, that BJP is not crossing 38%, because we waited to the actual turnout, which means the BJP stronghold, where BJP was polling 50, 55, 60%, the overall turnout in those areas had dropped. So the weightage of UP, say for example, in a very easy way to understand that, there is an all India population. So UP has a certain all India in the population where the proportion is fixed. The same proportion is fixed in the electorate, almost.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when the states have a different turnout level, in the final outcome, the UP weightage went down by almost 4 points. Bihar weightage went down by 3 points. So if you look into that, the all India average weightage of all these BJP stronghold states was approximately 5 points lower than the 2019 turnout level. So just because of that, BJP's all India vote share kind of got struck below 38%. Otherwise, with the same turnout level, they would have been at 41%. So that is one of the reasons. And Sanjay Bhai immediately got it right. He said that, we are taking the, a single turnout all India number as our baseline to calculate that.
But with respect to both you and Sanjay, it's a pretty basic mistake to make, no? If you don't take into account the turnout level in each state.
I tell you why it is not a basic mistake, Veer, because the turnout levels, turnout numbers, you get to know only when ECI releases it.
But every day you were told so far 48% have voted, so far 50%. It's not that difficult, surely.
No. For state by state, it is different, you see. Number one. Number two, big number of states, which actually, the critical states, their last phase happened on the last day.
Yeah.
So for their entire data to run on that, you had to wait till the last day for UP, for Bihar, for West Bengal, critical states, all critical states. You have
and only after the polls close in the evening. Yeah, no, I accept that. I accept that. But my question is, the reason I think people were so hostile to the exit polls was not only did nearly everybody, I think everybody actually got it wrong. You got the trend wrong. The sense that the BJP would lose a majority, I don't think appeared in any exit.
Nobody said that.
And there was a sense that all of the mistakes were made in favor of one party. If you'd made a mistake and said Mamata Banerjee will get many more seats than she did or whatever, but nearly always it was the BJP that seemed to benefit from your mistakes. That is why in the current mood, people see you guys having the So you'll accept that this is a genuine objection.
It's a valid criticism, Veer. And again, I will be talking about me, not what others are doing.
I'm only asking.
If you look into the 2014 and 19 projections done by C Voter, we underestimated BJP by 50 seats.
Okay.
All right. Now, because we are conservative, because I am always a conservative, I always feel like there is a formula which will give you a lower end, you will give you a higher end, and I stick to be in the middle. And this is why many other pollsters, when they were giving sweeping majorities all the time, whenever they got it right, even though we got it right as well, it was as if we were wrong in reading the sweeping majority.
Yeah.
So formulas, when they work in that way, say for example, the same methodology, same formula, same extrapolation, when I use it Tamil Nadu against the BJP, we got it right. We use it in Kerala, we use it elsewhere, we get it right. The same thing will apply on Rajasthan, same thing we will apply even in UP. In Bihar, we got it right. But so it cannot happen that the same methodology and formula works nicely on 26 states and it doesn't work nicely on 3 states. So I actually got, if I'm not wrong, Financial Times asked me, will you be tweaking and changing your methodology? I said, why should I? It's as far as polling is concerned, if I have got it right for 26, they're correct. Why should I tweak just because there are some local factors? Now, these local factors are weird, which I cannot get into the data. Honestly, I can't get into the data. Say example, Rajasthan, you pick up. We said BJP polling 50%, BJP polled 50% in Rajasthan. Congress polled 37, 13% lead margin of any one party. Who on earth will give them an equal number of seats as such? While my qualitative team of reporters, by the way, we do have a quality team and quantitative team, and they kind of quarrel out each and every seat while taking a call. And they said BJP is losing 8 seats in Rajasthan, and quantitative team said that, well, with 13% gap, 12% gap. If you can take the call, take it the call. And the qual team said that, no, they are very close marginal seats, so we will go by the quantitative data because the gap is huge. They were right. So what thing is that every process that you apply for other state will be applied in Rajasthan as well. अब ये हो गया गलत. Now the question is that why everybody was favoring BJP to take this call, right? So number
how
one,
come all the mistakes ended up favoring the BJP?
I'll tell you why. Because all the mistakes that ended up favoring BJP, the first line of argument, difference is that I underestimated them 50 seats each time in 14 and 19. All right. Number one. Number two, the probability formulas which throw up the numbers in one way when you have a huge gap in the vote shares, like in Rajasthan, as I mentioned, there is no way that one can stop that. No, this is not going to work in Rajasthan if you are operating on that formula. So it is very likely,
these are reasonable, slightly technical explanations. Let me give you another one, which is that pollsters don't take into account that when you go to a state like UP, where there is a certain amount of fear, people will not necessarily tell you the truth. Is that something you think?
No, that happens. It happens, but then from the probability idealistic probability way, it is said that unless there is a communal tension, unless there is a political violence, threat of political violence, the number of people who lie for the opposition will lie for the government. So if they lie, Veer, then we will get the vote share wrong. So basically, in probability, what happens
You're saying if the vote shares are right, people didn't lie.
Basically. People didn't. What happens is that generally people, those who lie, they cancel out each other.
Okay.
In fact,
in the days when Surjit Bhalla used to do polls, he did some for me. This is before he became what he is now. Surjit overestimated how much the Congress would win in 1991 and got a poll very famously wrong. But he also invented an index of lying because he said people will always lie. Do you guys use that kind of methodology?
I don't think they lie. There is something called spiral of silence. When the spiral of silence works, and it's a global phenomenon, that Tories voter have been studied under the spiral silence for last 50 years. They have been till the social media arrived, and all of a sudden we see right of center being overtly vocal on that thing. Okay. So the spiral of silence, in my experience, has been on the political violence areas, for example. And this, by the way, we did mention this every time we explained the West Bengal data. That our don't know can't says across India, the average is about 7-8%. In West Bengal, it was 20-21%, almost 3 times the national average. All right, and it's a polling problem. It's a huge problem. People do not answer. People skip. People do not answer. Now, generally speaking, the spiral of silence, again, globally, is taken in or factored in with an idea that if people are afraid with Veer, they will not say anything against with Veer. And if Veer is in chair, Veer is in power, and there is huge number of people who are not saying anything, the models are done in a way which can compensate that for the spiral of silence. That's how it works generally. Now, 21% taking them away and then talking about only about 79% who answered you correctly in some way. That's a operational problem with any pollster would face. But honestly speaking, your question was, do people lie?
Yeah.
It cancels out. The line
they lie, but they lie equally on both sides.
They lie equally on the both sides. So I don't worry about their lying. I only worry about if they are under undue stress or pressure for not speaking it out properly. In fact, our problem
which you don't think they are in states like UP in the current scenario?
No, never.
Or in Bengal,
funny thing is, in our industry, the unit of calculation for all the things is LOI, length of interview. That's how, if you commission me a poll, say, okay, this is my questionnaire. Say, suppose I come to a thing that, okay, this is a 15-minute interview or something like that. That's how we calculate the units, that one researcher, how many interviews in a day will he or she conduct depends on LOI. And that's how you do the cost calculation. How I deal we on that. Funny thing, in my regular tracker, which we run 365 days a year, it's about 10 minutes of LOI.
Okay.
And the average interview is 17 minutes. You know why? People talk. People keep on talking. People talk. They love to talk. They just don't answer you in yes, no, can't say. They give a valid reason. They just keep on telling you how they feel, why they feel. Maybe it is a unique problem to Sea Voter because we are media brand. Somehow people associate with that ye chapega ya dikhega. Invariably people, while hanging upon the interviewer, they ask ki ye kab dikhega ya kab chapega, ye TV pe kab aayega. They feel kind of empowered while talking. So we don't feel a problem of people not saying. People actually take more than enough time to answer. And lying is a global phenomenon. Lying is a equal opportunity offense that all the party supporters do. It's not that any one side lies more than the other.
Okay, let me ask you a question that the Congress has also raised. It has said about certain pollsters, we're not going to get personal here, that they conducted during the campaign and before the campaign surveys for the BJP. That when they came and did these allegedly objective media polls, they should have declared an interest and said, listen, we've also been polling for the BJP. A, is that right? Do pollsters do this for political parties? And B, don't you think there's an ethical issue involved?
I agree with what Congress said.
Yeah.
And I actually I always tell this that if this wouldn't have happened if media would have followed the press council guidelines that who commissioned the poll. As simple as that. And this is why I mentioned that in US the pollsters who are doing Republican polls, they simply write that R and B.
Identify this, yeah. But we don't do that in India. We don't do that in India.
Yeah, and that's wrong. That's plain wrong. I think there is a clear conflict of interest. There is a clear, more than conflict of interest, it is an ethic. And there is nothing wrong if you are polling for a party. It's a business. It's a survey is an industry. Just like
nobody wants to ban them. We just want them to tell the truth. They should be transparent.
No, what's wrong in saying that okay, my client is this, my client. I also do polling for Congress or BJP or Communist or whatever it is. Let the data speak for itself. It will not make you up and down. So I kind of agree with whatever has been suggested.
The other thing people have said, and you've suggested this, is that the media often doesn't have the respect it should for polling. If you look at the surveys that came out before the election and after the election exit polls, there were organizations I'd never heard of. Organizations where if you looked at their previous record, they got everything wrong. There were people, for instance, the last Bengal election who predicted a landslide win for the BJP when actually Mamata won by a landslide.
Exactly.
Yet, public memory is so short.
Yeah.
Because media organizations don't really care too much about having the transparency to say things like. Okay, so we've discussed how pollsters should be transparent. My final area is something that you've touched on, which is the way in which the media has made a spectacle of exit polls. We talked about the fact that very unknown organizations with no track record are taken seriously and are put on par with, say, people like you or CSDS or whatever, who have a proven track record. We don't seem to realize that, the public seem to realize that, and the media is in no hurry to tell us. There's also, according to me, and you're welcome to disagree, a tendency to go for sensation when it comes to exit polls. It's part, I think, of the general Ekta Kapoorization of news media. In no other country in the world, when a pollster gets it right, does he do a dance in the studio? Exactly. When he gets it wrong, does he start weeping hysterically? Don't you guys as pollsters feel a bit embarrassed? Because you're serious guys, you do serious calculations, you gauge the public mood. Aren't you a little embarrassed by what this has become?
No, of course, yes. I mean, it's a circus.
It is.
It's a circus, and if those who follow me, I have refused to be part of that. I have reduced my TV appearance to almost zilch, barring the very, very rudimentary obligations of appearances. This entire, this election was my 25 years of elections on TV.
Yeah.
This is my first election when I have done more programming like this, one-on-one, with serious journalists than doing actual TV kind of TV. No, I don't wish to do that for the precisely the reason I feel that it has become a circus. I don't want to, and it's and nothing personal against anybody. But yes,
Yeah,
I was asked by news agencies called up and then somebody has cried and like that and so on. I said, listen, uh, I never danced when I got it right, and I never cry when I get it wrong.
yeah,
When I get it wrong, I will go back to my uh, you know table again, look into what went wrong where, sit with my team, and redraw the next one. How not to get it wrong the next one. That's what serious posters are supposed to do. So yes, I totally get your point. And you know what? It's a very well in 2014 itself. In 13 actually, I requested all my colleagues who were seriously polling business people that like the British polling council, we should be having an Indian polling council
yeah,
to club together people who are actually doing good work on the ground. And to become a member of that, there was only one thing to undertake, that okay, in terms of any criticism, we shall be open for scrutiny of the data by our colleagues, by our peers. That is the only thing. The request which I had done at that point of time, which I will again plead to Sanjay Bhai and CSDS, I said that this should be headquartered at your place because you are non-for-profit academic institution and all of us are for-profit.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that project remained in the WhatsApp group. So we have a very good WhatsApp group, by the way. Of all these serious people, we discuss all side of problem, data problem, law. Sometimes Sanjay Bhai's and my researchers as well were kind of taken up by the police people, beaten up, because this election commission law is interpreted by local authorities in their own way. That the law is that you cannot conduct and publish. That means as a single thing, but you are allowed to conduct the research activity. So we use that group to in order to make sure that it reaches the right authorities and make sure our researchers are not beaten up, researchers are taken care of to get them bail and all that. But unfortunately, that group has remained more like a group of friends who are serious about it, who are worried about it. But we haven't been able to kind of reinforce it in a way that this is a kind of a select club, and we didn't want it to be like that. We just wanted more transparency and more people, and ask media, before you publish any poll, please check if they belong to this group or not, number one, and if they are open and transparent enough for scrutiny by their data by their peers. Forget about everybody else, forget about legal system, forget about media and anybody else. So that kind of transparency, we are transparent in that group, but we are unable to force it on the others. This is why a dozen odd fly by night names come up
yeah.
every election, and they never appear 5 years down the lane. They
No.
never appear 5 years down the lane. There is something else coming up, and that
So
has to
let
be
me
stopped.
So let me try and summarize. We're at the end of our time. The bottom line is you want us to know that yes, you got it wrong. You've often got it right. The fact that pollsters have got it wrong, there are complex reasons why you got it wrong, but you completely reject the charge of collusion, at least at the level of the serious pollsters, who you say are people who work hard, and sometimes they were wrong. However, you also say that you don't understand the stock market, and if anything can be substantiated by how people got info of what the results were earlier, etc. That's a different matter and not really your concern. As far as the ban on polls is concerned, you don't think there's any logical reason for it, though frankly, you yourself would be quite relieved because you've got tired of having to give exact seat predictions, etc.
Exactly.
And you would be happy to just give figures for popular vote and leave it at that.
I would be
You
happy to do the vote
also
share and the reasons. Yeah.
You also say that yes, it is true that pollsters do polls for political parties. Sometimes when the elections are on, you don't grudge them that, they're professional pollsters, but there should be transparency. They should
Absolutely.
declare what they're doing, saying what they're doing. And finally,
Absolutely.
yeah, and finally, you say yes, the business doesn't even have any element of self-regulation. All kinds of fly-by-night operators turn up and they have all kinds of results. They disappear, they come back 5 years. you need to have some kind of regulatory body, not one imposed on the industry, but one that the industry does itself, where people are transparent, they share the data with each other, if not outside, and you establish some standard. Otherwise, you're saying, if you look at the attitude of the media, you look at what polls have become in India, it's a circus.
It's a circus. Yeah. And what we need is more dissection of the data, more data, actually. When I say that we should be a selective, and it doesn't mean that new posters should not come up. We will be more than happy a zillion posters coming up, but they should be open. And what we are asking, that you should be open for the peer scrutiny and peer criticism. And to get the data better, we need more data. I don't want media to commission pollsters survey once in 5 years. Be more like, if we are an advanced democracy, we have to get into the tracker system. Come to think of it, we are the only person who are running trackers for more than 10 years now. And there is no single other pollster to do that. I would be more than happy if there are a dozen trackers come up. Because when you do it on a daily basis, please try to understand, if you are learning from each other, if Vir is running a daily tracker, and we are, more often than not, they will run in the same direction. But one fine day, Vir says, I got something. Either it is a data noise or you guys are not capturing it. Both of us will go back on the drawing board and figure it out what exactly it is. So it helps to go together, to grow together for the big data mining. More the merrier. More data is a better democracy, So there is no point in banning the data. But yes, I would be more than happy if they do away with the seat share circus. I mean, I would be a very, very relieved man here the day it happens.
We've kept this about the figures and about the polling itself. Let me ask you a personal question before we go. How depressed were you by the sort of huge public opprobrium that posters faced, and the suggestion that all of you guys had brought the profession to distribute? You know yourself that wasn't true of you, but wasn't it a depressing experience to your profession being regarded like
that? Yes and no, both. I mean, honestly speaking, it as a brand of the polling and industry, it was depressing. But I would not lie. But when I say that, the first thing that came to my mind was a sigh of relief. Thank God I never bought a stock. And that was a huge kind of a, relief for me. And I do have very good, genuine friends who are left, right, and center. And they kind of very worriedly told me that, this is what the allegation is going on. And I said the same thing, that, I never bought a stock in my life. I said, thank God that you did not buy a stock in your life. So in that way, but yes, it is depressing. And let me tell you this thing, Vir. If it would not be stock, it would be something else. When you get it wrong and the doubt is on your intent, people will figure something to blame on you. This, I'm not saying that people might not have done anything wrong. People must.
Which is why you're calling this a thankless job.
Yeah, exactly. This is a thankless job. So I would rather like this to be forced sometimes voluntarily from the polling side, from the media side, rather than government coming up with some law. Honestly, yeah, But I hope that media thinks about it and does something about it. I just hope.
Nobody is in favor of government regulation. The argument, in fact, is the government got too involved, and that's why so many pollsters got it wrong. But Yashwant Deshmukh, thank you so much for talking to us. I think you've been very candid and you've explained your position very clearly and precisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vir. Always a pleasure.